Hello and good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotime Itai. I hope you can hear me. If you can, just say yes, you can. Good morning, Favor L. Idogu. Thank you for joining us today. Happy holidays to everyone. And of course, happy Easter to everyone as well. And we are back and we are here today. This is the Good Morning Education Show. You can catch us from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. every Monday to Friday, West African time. And on Saturday, we can actually um, meet up 10 a.m. I'm sorry, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then of course Sunday we actually meet up 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. All these time zones are West African time. And it's such a pleasure to be here once again. Today we'll be having a great topic to talk about, and we'll be talking about mental resignation. But before then, as usual on the show, we spend some time to look at the headlines. We try to talk about issues within and around the world of education, and we spend some time to address these issues as well. And today will not be an exception. Some news have been making the rounds, and I know that a lot of people will be interested in trying to find out what this actually means. Okay, so we're going to start with our first headline, and this one is going to be talking about WAEC. And I'd like to also say hello, Ifyok, on the other side. Great to have you here, and great to see you commenting on the show. And the first headline talks about WASE, that's the West African Senior School Certificate exams. And there's been a distinction between the concerns of people out there and previous headlines that have come up before now. In particular, I think it was last week or so, the West African Education or West African Examination Council, apologies for that, says there is no clash in its examination dates. And this year, especially with the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Exam, um, organized by JAM, which is the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board. The Council of the Head of National Office, that's HNO, Mr. Patrick, he made this clarification on Sunday with an interview, with the news agency of Nigeria. He was speaking about the concerns of stakeholders and the clash that might endanger performance of some candidates. Reports have it that the Federal Ministry of Education had in a circular dated April 5th titled Update on 2022 Examination Timetable for All Exam Bodies addressed to all the test bodies in the country. It showed the clash dates. But I'm happy that this has actually now been addressed, and but there's been a feedback that actually, when it was in circulation, there was an error in the circulation. So pretty much that's not an accurate date, and he has reassured everyone that there is no form of clash. So let's put our minds to rest, and let's have a clear um, concept about the issue on ground. So that's that, and then that takes us to the next headline on the show. And the next headline pretty much is talking about um, a popular lawyer, and is saying that sports hampering children's education, um, or sports hampering children's dedication. Let's spend some time to um, let's even look at what this news is saying, because sometimes the way headlines have been designed these days, you get to miss out on things that are actually being said. you know so let's look at that. So it says sports hampering children's dedication. That's what that news is talking about. It says former lawmaker Ned Woko has said that sporting activities are a great stimulator for learning in children. Um, Okay, Moko said that All Star Sports University, the major Delta State, has been an initiative he desired to come through. According to OK, building careers among children through sport will enable them to make their mark and edge their exploits in the account of history. Okay, so it was just a trick, you know. So that so it's advocating actually not against sports, and it is for sports. So many thanks to the way some of these things have been fashioned. All right, so we're going to go over to the next headline, and this will take us a bit away from Lagos, and it take us straight to the city of Ibadan, where we have the Oyo State government. And we have a conversation where there's been a clamor and an advocacy that the governor should not hand over um, the Government College of Ibadan to old students. That's what the current parents are clamoring and advocating, that the governor should not do this. And sometimes you get to wonder why. Of course, there are different school of thoughts with regards to this. Well, excuse me. There are different school of thoughts with regards to this, and naturally, a lot of people have their thoughts. The parents, especially of the current government college Ibadan, have kicked against the plans by the Oyo State government to hand over the institution of Government College of Ibadan to the Old Boys Association. The parents made this petition known, and said that their advice is to make sure that the school stays put the way it is, and the people behind the college take over after the resources in the school. That is their belief, and they are led that the old students are planning to use the landmass of the staff quarters scattered within the college for their selfish reasons. But this is something that we'll always face, and I hope this is addressed at the time. And speaking about it, Finn, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, and it's so good to be back here. Good
So
morning, nice.
I have an accusation for you this morning. Why is it the time I was reading the headline about Government College Ibadan that you decided to bring forth your DNA?
Deep calls onto deep.
Ibadan calls on Ibadan. Yeah, right. So what do you have to say? Your people are asking the governor not to hand over the school back to the old students. What's your thought about this?
Actually, I saw that news article, I think sometime last week, and it's interesting to me, or it sparked my interest because my own high school is on a move to have the alumni running the school. And when I read through what the parents say, that it's for the good of the alumni uh, members, they want to use the space, they want to convert it to this and that. I felt they were just talking out of fear. They feel once the alumni takes over, they're going to increase fees, which I believe is the main fear of the parents. And they don't want fees increased. But one reality we have to face is, as I can speak, for example, from my own alma mater, I have visited a number of times since I graduated, and I can clearly see that things are not the same way that it used to be. In actual fact, some of the culture that we grew up knowing and that made the school what it was, that made it stand out as, that gave it the kind of credibility it had, that culture has been eroded. So children in the school currently are forming a new culture, which is um, under par to what the school was known for. I believe that when you have the alumni body run a school, they sustain the heritage. it shouldn't be for parents to want to shoot it down and say, oh, it's political, or it's for one person's a selfish interest, or they start bringing up and formulating things that are not in the hands of the government. How has the school fared? That's the question they should be asking. How has the school fared? Look at the infrastructure. Even look at the teaching and learning in the school. How has it fared? The government has so many of the schools and so many of the children. They really do not even care. From the federal level, we see how much importance, or importance in quotes, that the government gives to education. So if you have people who have passed through the school, who are proud to be associated with the brand name, and they say, oh, we would like to take over the running of the school, it should not be for parents to just put all the emphasis on, oh, fees will be increased. We're going to have to pay more. Yes, if you have to pay more to gain, to have better quality education for your kids, for your wards, why not? If you have to pay more to make the school environment safe, to have maybe better perimeter fencing, to have better security, to have a better learning, teaching and learning, why not? I feel the parents should just put their fair and the convenient place they have found that their purses have been. Yes, we all know what the economy is, but you have uh, to pay some sacrifices to get what you really desire and what you truly desire. I feel, or I hope, that the government and the Ministry of Education and all of those involved in the takeover of government college and other schools would look at these things more practically. Will look at it. Would also assuage the fear of parents and let them know that, well, this is the end result. Take them, carry them along, let them know what you have planned, and then have them also involved in part of the running of the school. That's my submission. Your mic seems to be muted. I didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Good morning, Rhoda. While you were speaking, Rhoda joined us. Rhoda, good
Yeah,
morning.
good morning. Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, brother.
Good morning, Fanny. It's a very interesting Easter weekend that we had, full of exciting news and troubling news as well. And thanks for me, Fanny, for ending your submission on in that way that you did, because part of what was in my head was, why is there so much distrust? Why are the parents not excited about the school takeover or the school handing over of the school to the old boys? Why is that? I think that's the real question for me. That's the why is that so? And if the strategy is to then involve them to get buy-in, buy-in doesn't just happen by words of mouth or letters; it's by engagement. So why is there distrust? Why? And that's where the problem is. So any strategy that that um, clarifies and prevents distrust is exactly what needs to be done. I want to believe that there is a form of nobility in the idea of the takeover and the interest of the old boys to bring likely back the glory of the school experience they had. Um, so hopefully that's what it should be their intentions. And if the parents are feeling different, and I read the comments from their letter, as that they just want to do it for their own profit, and the school that, as they know, is supposed to be a government school, not for profit, etc. Wanting to take over their lands and all of that. I mean, it's riddled with all kinds of distrust. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. And so we're coming to the last two headlines, and they kind of look similar. The first one says, anyone caught distributing, receiving child pornographic materials risk 14 years imprisonment. That's from the Lagos State government on the heels of the Chrisland news. And I know, Rhoda, you're passionate about this. Any comments from you?
Oh, absolutely. I even put it as a post on a status on my Facebook and WhatsApp status. And my comment was that anyone who sees the video should report it. And I did receive feedback about from those who already have their phones. If you have it on your phone, delete it. What use is it to you? Delete it. Do not share it. And even beyond that, the government saying, I don't know how they're going to find you, to be honest, it's very easy to find people these days. Your digital footprints are everywhere, and which you need. Now that's part of what digital literacy, not computer science education that we do in our schools. That's what digital literacy, which is a separate component on its own, a separate subject on its own, should deals with. Teaches children about all of that digital citizenship and thing. Because as you are right now sharing it, it can be detrimental to when you want to travel, and you
Yeah,
needing a visa. It can be
absolutely.
detrimental to and so
Yeah.
it's of no use to you in any way. Um, so apart from it being some kind of legal, there being legal implications for you, what about your own personal life implications? You have children, you have this false sense of responsibility. What's the desire in there? So yeah, I'm totally in alignment with this headline. And we need to now begin to control the narrative on the internet as much as possible. um, Parents are getting younger. I don't know if maybe we need to sound this out a lot more than we do. That parents are getting younger. And because of that, these parents who are younger have consumed information and content and learning on a digital space. And hence, we now have to talk about digital behaviors. So, yes, I agree with this content, this headline.
Yeah. Finn, do you want to comment on that as well?
Even before the legal perspective was brought in, I remember I was talking to someone yesterday and I said, look, I haven't seen the video and I will not see the video. I will not go looking for, because first question is, what's the excitement about? What do you want to see in minors um, um, having sexual relationship? What's the excitement about? I know the defense for many people will be, oh, what the children of nowadays, see what they're doing. But can we discuss what we see that is wrong? Can we have a discussion around the kind of reforms we want to see in our schools? Can we talk about breakdown in parenting without actually going graphic? And I imagine this is a child, my child, or a child that I know. What is my interest in seeing their nakedness or their sexual whatever performance with other children? So without us even looking at the legal implications, I think people should be sensible enough to ask themselves, what's the excitement about? If you're adults and have children, or you don't even have children, but as adults, chances are you have had sex in your life. So what exactly is it that is that is so that we're so curious about? We just need to be able to, and I think it's the same thing with people who share um, videos and pictures from accident scenes of bodies injured and dead and all of that. We just need to get in touch with our humanity once again, so that when all of these sad things and these anomalies are happening, they're not our way of entertainment. They're not our way of releasing stress and letting off steam. That's the angle that it hits me from.
Well, thank you so much. And we have Safety Chick in the building. Good morning, Ogochi. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Ritimi. Good morning, Dr. Rhoda. Good morning, Fee. It's nice to be here.
Good morning,
And
Gochi.
yeah, and the follow-up headline is still on the same borderline, talking about the shutdown of Christian schools and the probe that has begun, or the initiating of a probe to the school based on the sexual allegation. Um, yeah, so let's go back. Let's even start with Ugochi. I'm sure I don't know if Ugochi has been seeing what's been happening.
Okay, so yesterday I came in. I had shared a post on social media about the hairstyles of children, how it had been causing, some serious safety threats to children. And few hours after that, I came back again on social media, and social media was on fire. I'm like, you know and so, because in things like this, it's not nice to just start talking because you want to be the first to talk, or to show that you are the one that has more information. It's really great to check and try to listen from both sides as much as possible, so that you're not also part of the problem. Because sometimes, in a bid to be the first person to give a report, we might end up bringing maybe just one side, or also fueling the problem by misinforming parents and all that,
People.
because a lot of that happened yesterday with um people sharing what they thought happened before hearing what actually happened, and stuff like that. And so, the truth is, we cannot continue to be reactive in this country. We just keep on being reactive. We don't do stuff. When these kinds of issues come on social media, we make a lot of noise. The school is shut down, this is done, we do a lot of IG lives. After that, we go back to square one. We can't continue like that. We I have not seen the video, and I don't even want to see it, because even on a normal day, I don't even collect WhatsApp videos. My settings are set not to receive media automatically. I choose what to download on my phone. So I don't want to see it. But I've had to, just because, again, I want to be sure what's going on. Somebody reached out to me to complain it was distressing. I said, distressing, distressing. When you say it's distressing, what happened? Have you seen it? He said yes. I said, okay. Is it rape? And he says, according to what he saw, it wasn't rape. And I said, see, even if you think that it's not rape, the fact that they are two young children, that's actually the problem here. The fact that it is two young children, they are not up to the age of even having sex in the first place. And so that is why that content is not something that people are even supposed to be distributing, because it's actually against a law in this country. But you see, a lot of people were sharing those videos because they didn't even know that it's part of the law that you are not supposed to be distributing child pornographic material. For them, they felt, oh, we're sharing information for sensitizing. No, you are not sensitizing, you are contributing to the problem. Because why isn't it enough that somebody already said that something like that happened? Why do you need to see proof? Why, if you're not trying to also feed something else, why do you need to see proof? you know so we can't continue to be reactive. And I always say that these kinds of issues must be a multi-stakeholder approach. It's not enough for us to say, oh, the parents have not done their parts well. Oh, the school did not do their parts well. Where were the chaperones and all that? It's at the end of the day, all parties need to be working together. If with stories being said about the young girl is true, it's because that young girl is also a victim. Somebody somewhere has groomed her, because she did not come down from her mother's womb knowing what to do. She didn't. So somebody somewhere has groomed. So that's why investigations have to happen to get to the root cause, and then see how to. Because I think there was something I heard Dr. Rhoda say on her video yesterday, which is about naming and taming. People want to just name and shame. But no, it's not naming and shaming, it's naming and taming. Because if you don't handle these things, where you end up even negatively affecting all parties concerned, because now everybody is trying to find someone to blame, a scapegoat. And just having a scapegoat is not the solution to the problem. Otherwise, these things will keep on happening again and again. So we've got to all be willing to go to the root of this problem. Because why is it that the children who were around, who were the ones videoing, why couldn't they have been the voice of reason, that, oh no, this is taking it too far? This should, even if you say you are doing truth or dare, this is taking it too far. No, you don't do that. And more than one person, because sometimes if one person is afraid to say something, or if one person says something, the person's fear might be that if I say something, what would my peers think? Would they think maybe I'm childish, I'm not mature? And I'm like, yeah, be the childish one. Be the challenge. And these are the conversations we must be having with our children early. That when you find yourselves in peculiar situation, you should be able to stand up to do what is right. And just maybe if one person had stood up, maybe it should have encouraged another person who was shy to also stand up. And again, what we need is for just a few of them to be the voices of reason in that situation. And maybe we will not even talking about this situation today. So at the bottom of it, we need to empower our children across all levels. When our parents are teaching them the right moral values from the home, then they go to school. The school is also cementing what they are hearing. Then they come out into the media. What they are seeing on the media is also portraying good stuff. When they get into the society itself, those things are not modeled to them on their street, because at the end of the day, children reflect what is going on in their society.
Thank you so much, Ugochi. And thinking about the shutdown and the probe, let's hear from Finn. Finn, we've had series of shutdown schools, or this time around, it's not people saying it first. I think the government decided to be very responsive. What's your take on the shutting down of schools?
I think the government's response of shutdown it's not that proactive because they didn't just shut down the particular campus where these children are in. They shut down all the branches of Christian schools in Lagos. And I'm not sure they have put into consideration what happens to the remaining children in that school. How many of them can be absorbed into other schools? This is third term is about to resume. Why truncate or jeopardize the academic journey of others for a few? The probe can still be on. The particular child or children involved could be suspended while the probe is on. There could be maybe an interim management put in place to run the school while the probe is on. But I think rushing to shut down all the what the government really, well, what I feel they want to achieve by that is people hailing them and saying, "Oh, the government has been proactive," but that's not proactive to me. What happens to all the children that are affected by this? Are we not going to see a rise in this kind of activities? Because definitely they're going to be idle at this point of their academic journey. What schools? Some of them are in their terminal classes, GS3, SS3. What school are they going to go into now? Just a term to go. They have exams coming up. Man, it's just a total um, disruption of the lives of children that really should not be. I'm all for the probe. I'm all for disciplinary measures and all of that, but not at the expense of other children and the academic journey. And not just for the children, the number of staff members that will be affected by this suddenly being out of jobs, and then it escalates again. That affects their families. It's going to affect some of their children who would have to maybe do some other things to, because probably that salary is the only one running the fund. I mean, looking at the far-reaching the consequences of just shutting down the schools, I think it's much more than what they're trying to curb. And if the government would have people who can whisper into their ears or speak to them uh, objectively about this, yes, go ahead with the probe. Put in a temporary management system. Let the Ministry of Education or the Ministry of Quality Control in Education, let a government body take over running of the school while the probe is on. It doesn't have to be right under the current management, but please let it not let us not try to close one wound and then we open up 100 more. Thank you.
Rhoda, over to you. I know we've had this conversation, but I know it'll be good for others to hear as well. We're talking about the probe shutdown. Over to you, Rhoda.
Yeah, I've been very vocal about my two big points, which is about the shutdown and the suspension of the children. I do not agree with any of them. I do not, for, with the shutdown in itself, it's just like Finny and Safety Tick have beautifully articulated. There are a number of implications on those, and I'm just not going to redress it. If you will look at the last, or I think the latest PR or communications from the school, it shared some insight about the numbers, the way they view numbers. So if they view numbers that way, for instance, 71 out of 76 kids, according to them, did well in this trip. That tells us something. That's over a healthy 90, that's about a 90% of the children who went to this place to for this trip and actually did well and came out with outcomes. And so every time we use this one bad apple approach, spoil the whole broth, it cannot always be in this situation. Is this a one bad apple? Is it spoiling the whole bunch? Is it, certain number of questions? So there's far-reaching implications, like you mentioned, the benchmark classrooms. What's going to happen to them? Parents who have paid school fees, parents who their kids are only here just for schooling, and the family is abroad. And, there's so many things to think about that. Suspension is another one. I just don't get it. It's always as if there are restorative approaches to getting kids to rehabilitate. So every time, I don't even think it's a preventive approach. I don't think it's a rehabilitative approach. I don't also think it's a remediative approach. So on the three post processes, which I'm sure Safety Chick is like the guru on these things, from prevention, from remediation to rehabilitation, it doesn't work. Whether you're shutting down, it doesn't work. In any case, when you shut down, you then don't know what enough. So the school needs to be running to conduct a full length investigation for experts to come in and see the small nuances of safety, of care, of nurture, and policies. You see it in action. You don't see anything with the school that is shut down. Nothing. You don't know, and then it's all over the place. But I understand that there's a school part of this. I understand that. I imagine that. This brings the question: the expansion that schools have as a business. It starts out somewhere, and when it starts out, maybe 50 something odd years ago, it was one school with a vision, with clarity, with parent partnership, and everything was strong. The moment a school begins to expand, things need to happen. Whether you're expanding over time or you expand, and with that expansion, your logistics, your operations, a lot of things have to change. Even the way you view parents. So as we know now, parents are getting younger and the way they consume content is completely different, which is why we continue to make the case for digital literacy and teaching children about their digital footprints and how they consume friendships. Now they live in two worlds. Two worlds, whether you like it or not. The children we are currently educating are living in two worlds. We're only existing in one part of their world. The other part of their world, we are not. And education serves to be in that part of the world so that we understand what's happening there. It's not about teacher computer science subjects. Again, I repeat it. It's not that. It's about knowing what these kids are doing in those platforms and being engaging them on those platforms. Some people have said I've interpreted cyberbullying as the way you physical bully someone by using words. Some cyberbullying is not just only when a child tells you a nasty word. It's also the when a child tells you you don't belong in a group, or that because you didn't behave or you're not using a certain language, you're not cool. There's a lot there. And I know I'm digressing a bit, but I'm not in support of suspension. I'm not in support of school shutdown. And the primary reason is they don't do anything to restore, to remediate, and to prevent. That's where I am. And I end with this. I heard that there was a boy pacing on the walkway because he couldn't see what was happening. That boy and everybody like him, who is a friend to these children, are affected. And they need to know what happened. This is what I mean by naming. It needs to be named, it needs to be spoken about, it needs to be a campaign, it needs to be a project, or all the children in Chrisland who are affected by this shutdown needs to be healthily informed about what has happened in the school so that they know that one next thing not to do. Shrouding it, covering it is shrouding it in the secrecy that is on you is doesn't make sense because the parents are having this conversation and children are hearing us. They are hearing. What's our sense of responsibility to them? It is not in the shutting down, neither is it in suspending those children. Those children need rehabilitation, their friends need prevention, and of course, there is a remediation for the other folks who are around, including the teachers. I find it difficult to blame the teachers. And it's not to say that they don't have their own blame. But when we hear about this duty, the roster of duty, when we hear about the student teacher ratio, I have 3 kids. I know what it is to manage them. And you put an adult in outside of their situation in a school to manage 1 to 14 to 13 students. There's a lot there. And I know it's not simple for the school. I know it's not simple. And I want to be conscious of that. But when expansion happens, you need to change the game.
I like the way you ended. When expansion happens, you need to change the game. I'm sure, Rhoda, you've heard me say this over and over again. The enemy of growth is structure. The enemy of growth is structure.
Absolutely.
So people need to understand that growth cannot just be treated as one subject in isolation. There are many components that tie into growth. If you grow, there's automatically vacuum, and you must plan for that vacuum with the kind of growth that you have. Valor Peters, good morning. Thank you for joining us. So let's just, I know it's a sensitive topic and we can go on and on and on. But let's just spend a bit of time before we end the show today on the topic, which is mental resignation. Because even some of the things we are talking about tend to also overlap into this mental resignation. It means different things to different people. But one key component I like to say about mental resignation is it speaks about a state of tiredness, where people just resign to fate, resign, just withdraw, and it can come as a result of so many things that are happening. It can come as a result of lack of involvement. It can come as a result of not being able to match up when the current situation overmatches your current capacity and strength. And we see this happening also in the proper workplace where even in team formations, even in groups, even in association and networks and on projects, we sometimes tend to see these things happen where people are physically present, people are present on a list, but mentally they've resigned associationship, they've resigned input, they've withdrawn their commitment. This happens for several reasons, and this is why we just want to talk about that today, you know. And I'd like to maybe just give you an opportunity to say something about that. What what is mental resignation to you, and have you seen this happening in your space? And how have you dealt with this concept? Over to you, Finn.
So, for me, mental resignation is, I haven't just seen it happen, I have experienced it also. At the point where, yeah, my body is in a place, but mentally I'm far away from there. And mental resignation happens for different reasons. It happens due to, so I'm going to take, for example, in the education space. I can't imagine being a teacher in, or being a member of staff in a school where you're turning the other way when you see things not working, and just staying there because, oh, I need the money coming in, and not looking at the bigger picture of how does this affect the children in the system. Somebody is supposed to be maybe at the gate and ensuring that there's a proper record kept of people coming into the premises to ensure the safety of everyone within the premises. And they arbitrarily leave their post of their duty post to maybe go to the restroom, go to eat, and is happening over and over and over again. And you just keep looking the other way and feeling, well, it's not my business. I'm not the one in charge of that. The day something is going to happen that will affect everybody, it will be your business. And for some people, they just get to the point where they just feel, look, there's just so much I can do. I can't come and kill myself in the lingo, in our very popular lingo of, look, well, when it eventually happens, then we'll find a solution. But when we get to the point where we are we're not thinking creatively anymore. We're not thinking productively anymore. We're out of sync with what's going on around our environment. We're completely disillusioned with what's going on. I think it's a good point to maybe not take a full break, but take a little bit of time off to rejuvenate. A mental resignation could happen just due to fatigue. We're just tired of going through the same motions over and over again, or it's just work stress, or it's the daily stress of that comes with carrying out your duties, and you just get to that point where there's just a shutdown. Instead of it getting to the point where it now becomes an issue to everybody, and it now becomes something that could potentially maybe even be life threatening. I think it's good for us to take a step back. And for teams and organizations, there's a need to take a break. Not just running full steam all the time and saying, oh, we need to hit this target. Yes, meeting targets is good. Yes, being productive is good. But those helping you to meet the targets are the members of your team. At what point do you take a break? At what point do you say, hey, let's slow down at this point and review what we have done? In fact, maybe not even review. Let's just take some time off to let off, to rethink all that we have been through. I know of someone who left a job in the last term of school, and while discussing with her, she said, "Look, I'm no longer productive in that position. I've been doing the same thing for 6 years. I'm not thinking up any new ways. I just by rote, I'm just doing what I need to do, and I don't think it's fair on the children that are coming through my class anymore." That's someone who realizes that they're mentally resigned and it's time for them to do good by themselves and by those who they come across, and they have decided, look, I need a break for this time. Let me just step away, recoup, re-energize, and then we get back on the grind. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's quickly bring up Safety Chick, but before then, good morning, Olushola Olumide. Thank you for joining.
Good morning, Rotimi. And I can see KK. Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone in the house. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. KK is not here, actually. We have Rhoda, we have Fini, we have Ugochi. Yeah. So, back to Safety Chick. I know this has to do with a bit of what you do, safety consciousness and the likes. Speaking about mental resignation, do you want to speak to preventive steps or measures that we can actually put in place as individuals or as a collective?
Hello. Hello.
Safety Chick. Okay,
Hello.
are you speaking to us?
Yeah. I thought you are referring to.
No, I'm speaking to Safety Chick. I was asking Safety Chick a question. All right, sir. Thank you. Over to you, Safety Chick. Safety Chick, carry on, please. Are you there? Safety Chick, are you there? Okay, let's carry that question to Rhoda. Rhoda, while we wait for Safety Chick, could you drop in on that as well?
Yeah, with mental resignation, I think it's something that happens to everyone at some point or many stages in one's life, um, where you kind of say to, I mean, I think of it as, a state of mind where you surrender to your situation and surrender to the symptoms that you're feeling about a particular situation. I've had many, 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 many moments of mental resignation where I have said to myself, you know what, I don't think I can do this anymore. I cannot control my environment. I cannot control what the situations that lead to maybe me moving a mile forward on this matter. And sometimes, because it is mostly mental, I find that if the moment I switch my mindset away from a surrendering situation, a feeling, but a what can I do feeling, to get to what can I do to change the narrative for myself, or to change the situation for another person. So because sometimes with mental resignation, it's not really about you. It's also about maybe people you're conversing with, people you're working with, people who you feel a bit of responsibility, who you feel responsible about. Um, and for me, I found that that place of surrendering can be both positive at the same time, negative, depending on the context I am working with. So, for instance, when at various times in my career, when I said, you know what, I've had it enough, is enough. I can't do this. I can't continue, being at this level of my career. I've surrendered to that situation as from a positive perspective, and I said to myself, it's time to make a shift. So sometimes you surrender for positive, and sometimes you surrender for negative. So in this case, in the story of changing my career and gaining a career milestone, whenever I've surrendered that I can't do this anymore, what it does is it triggers me to make an additional steps. But I think of that resignation as sometimes you want being helpless and feeling hopeless, and I try to remind myself that hope is a currency that one must send. One has the capacity to spend, and so why should I give up when hope, something I can spend is hope. And it also reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from John Dewey that has always kept me going, and has been an anchor, so to speak, for me whenever I'm in a situation of mental resignation. So I start to think about doing instead of learning. So that quote goes like this: it says, "Give students or children something to do, and if the doing is of such a nature that demands thinking, that learning will occur." So I use that to sort of like tell myself whenever I resign and say, you know what, I think I need to do something. And maybe the doing is taking a course, maybe the doing is talking to someone, finding a mentor, um, actually going outside of myself, to make from additional friendships, so that I can, it will help me to think, it will probe a thinking in me rather than a resignation. And so that sort of like code helps anchor what I need to do. Every time I think about I am getting myself to think outside of where my situation is, then I find myself, coming out of but it's not always negative. That's what I would like to share.
Thank you so much. Ugochi is back, and I'm going to also twist that question because of time, to actually now not just talk about preventive, but I want her to also spend some time to address what Finn also actually made reference to. How do people own up, especially for the sake of the people around them? Because she mentioned someone who actually had to come up to her and say, you know what, I don't think I'm doing the best I can, or I'm not giving value as I should, hence I'm staying away. How do we put this into integrity of input? Ugochi, over to you. Ugochi, are you there? Ugochi, are you there? Okay. Um, so let's just head over to asking the question while we still wait for her. Um, so can we actually say that um, some level of recklessness could be a sponsor, to mental resignation? And how do
Can you hear me now?
we now? Oh, yes, we can. Fantastic. Yes, we can.
Please, please, can you hear me? Yes, I'm
Yes, we
speaking.
can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you carry on? We can hear you. I heard the time when you asked. Oh,
Okay. There, if you can hear me, it means that there is a lag because what I when I was asking if you could hear me, I'd said it a while before you heard. But I'm just going to speak anyway and hope that it catches up somehow. So first things first is that people need to know that there are available safe spaces. If people are not sure that there is a safe space or where it is or whom it is with, are not able to speak up when they need to speak up. The person that spoke to Finyi because the person realized that Finyi is a safe space to share about this thing, a no judgment zone. Because when people get into that phase, that's actually what they need. They don't need people to say, you're not strong, be a man, or is with all the problems in Nigeria, nobody can be depressed in Nigeria, because people make all those funny things, that no, in Nigeria, we don't get depressed. It's only all those Igbo people that used to commit suicide. It's not a Nigerian thing. It's not by nationality. It's not. So people need to know that there is a safe space, and it should be available in schools. It should be available in workspaces. Going to speak with a mental health therapist does not mean you are running mad. Does not mean that there is something wrong with you. It's just the way you would go see a doctor if you have the flu or you have a headache and you just need to check and be sure that you are up to par. It's the same thing. And so the earlier we begin to treat it that way, the better for all of us. So those need to be available so that people know that when they find themselves in certain situations, they can go to and they can have conversation, knowing that their conversation is not going to be reported to maybe a boss or a supervisor, and that this is a safe space for them to now walk through their emotions and come up with better steps of what to do going forward. Because that's what should happen in that process. Because I really liked what Dr. Rhoda mentioned, that it can be positive and it can be negative. It is positive when it forces you to begin to think, to take necessary action. It is negative when it paralyzes you and you feel like there is no hope, there is nothing you can do about it. And that is why we have those things. So talk through your feelings. Don't feel this way. But the point is, when you feel this way, you don't now rest and build a duplex. You take those feelings and work it out and take actionable steps that can take you from where you are to the next place. Because you see, sometimes, like what is currently going on now in the economic situation, can lead to mental resignation on the parts of some people. Some school owners might and say, we do everything, but it's never good enough. Oh, we're not going to try again. So parents are saying, we have talked, we have trained. Children will do what they want to do. Oh, I can't do anything anymore. But you see, it's also supposed to be that it's also supposed to be this same point that comes for other people to say this is becoming too prevalent. What should we do to make it stop? And so you can see there are some people that will feel overwhelmed and not want to do anything, but there will be those who will decide that this can actually be a turning point so that these kinds of things will not happen another time, and then they go on to take action. So we should be biased toward taking positive action, and that's one of the things that safe spaces can do. So I don't think it's a bad idea if each school has, this counseling unit that is available to everyone, not just the children. Even the adults need space to, air out their thoughts and, have an unbiased, non-judgmental individual advise them and walk them through that process. That's how they come out stronger from the situation. Back to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I want to direct the question on the screen to Rhoda as we bring the show to a close. Rhoda, I'm sure you can see the question. Over to you very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I'm no expert in mental health, but I could share a bit about some of the things I have done. I know that one of the things that helped me a lot. And this is a great question from Favor. Thank you so much. And if you're fed up, with the work that you're doing, how do you bounce back to be productive? And Favor is asking particularly around the work that you do. So, because mental resignation is not, sometimes it's even about your relationships, the relationships that you hold, or it may be an action that you want to take, and you feel kind of like helpless around it. I think one of the things that have helped me in the past, and maybe that's what I will share, is that I have often, so in bouncing back, I've often, like Safety Chick said, gone first to my safety nets. So the first thing I do is go to those people I feel safest. I feel my safest with. That is the very first thing I do. When I get to them, I pour my heart out about everything, no holds barred, because of course they are my safety nets. And I share everything about the way I feel. The first thing it does for me is that it relieves my mind. It frees my mind to be able to then receive feedback, because one those are two things. It frees me up mentally, and then I'm open to receiving feedback. And so with that feedback, it is now the feedback that helps me to build what I can now call enduring capacity. The capacity to take what I've been told, to do a SWOT analysis. Sometimes when that's why I used that quote earlier on about something that from John Dewey that says, "Give someone something to do, not to learn." Because then when with my safety nets, I go and then I get, okay, here's the feedback. What do I do? I do a quick SWOT. What is the strength here? What is the weakness here? What's the opportunity and what's the threat here? And nothing complicated. I actually just use a small table and just write one word item, and then with that I then continue to have that conversation. So that's one thing that has helped me. I go straight to my safety net, I pour out my heart, I'm open to feedback, and then I do a SWOT analysis using one word. Not all this. Sometimes when we say analysis, as if, oh, it's one big 10-page document. No, it's just me saying, what is the strength in what I'm sharing now? What's the strength where I am? What is the weakness now? Because with identifying the weakness, which is why I like a lot about around naming things. With identifying my weakness, then I know exactly if I have been saying the wrong things. Because sometimes we think something is a weakness, but it's actually not. And so when you take your time to look at it very well critically and go back to your safety net and keep working, it helps. And anybody today's time who is not who doesn't have a mentor, a coach, and the mentor, a coach can be your husband or your wife or your friend or something, just find that person. We it's so tough living out here in this world. To be honest, it's too many things, and I actually feel pity for children these days, because I did I didn't grow up in their world, and here I am also they're having many bouts of mental resignations. Imagine what happens in theirs. So everyone needs a partner, everyone needs a support system, everyone needs a safety net. That's what has worked for me. That's what I know I can share. I'm not a mental health coach. I just find my safety net. I pour out my heart. I'm open to feedback. I do a quick SWOT analysis, and I work on those particular two. My strengths, because everyone thrives in their strength, and it makes you feel joyful and happy about your situation, and the opportunities. I articulate them and see what learning I need to take, and I learn.
Thank you so much. I think that's all we'll be able to take on the show today. Thank you, Rhoda. Thank you, Ugochi. Thank you, Fini, for joining. And we'll be here same time tomorrow, God willing. And we will take another conversation on something that has to do with what we're facing as individuals and, of course, as professionals as well. And to all that made a comment, thank you, Favor. Thank you, Valor Peters. Thank you, Ifyok, for the comments, and everyone who's joined us directly and indirectly. Thank you, Watchom. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Lusola, for joining. I'm sure network was not being friendly. So on that note, we're going to have our goodbyes as usual, and at the count of three, we're going to say our usual goodbyes. 1, 2, 3. It's
It's
always
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 a great
a great
morning
great
morning
on the Good
on a
Morning
good morning
Education
education
Show.
show.
education.
Have a great week,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.